Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright. Our goal today is to have a better show than the...
Oh, the Yankees. Joe and his Yankees and everything. I hurt my back jumping off the bandwagon. I thought they were going to slow down.
I tried to warn you. We were at the All-Star game. I told you. Sox, Astros, ALCS.
Yeah. Every once in a while, Nick Wrong is right.
Oh, there you go. You're going with the Mets this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Tebow. Call him up to the Mets.
All right, we do have a big show despite the Yankees losing last night. The Eagles are making calls for a new running back. Tom Brady knows he's got to bring his best to beat the Chiefs, but we are starting with the Dallas Cowboys. So yesterday on this program, we discussed whether head coach Jason Garrett is on the hot seat. This morning, the finger points at his quarterback, Dak Prescott, who right now ranks near the bottom of starting QBs in yards, passer rating, and completion percentage. Dallas's record, 2-3. And at least one Hall of Famer and Cowboy legend, Troy Aikman, said Dak needs to be more accurate. In fact, he goes on to say no matter what else he's got, smart, intelligent, body, height, anything, accuracy is the most important thing. CC, how much is Dak hurting the Dallas Cowboys at this point?
Well, this is the thing, and I know Dallas fans, they think it's only them. But if you're a fan of a team, I'll take Cam Newton. Cam Newton has reached the pinnacle as far as being an MVP, and he gets criticized all the time, for how he plays quarterback, and he gets criticized for his accuracy. So I can understand what Troy's talking about. In this era that we're talking about, as far as the expectations for quarterbacks, they're a lot higher. And the reason why is because there's so many guys that are competent as far as throwing the football now, more than we've ever seen. I think we're in the golden age of quarterbacks. People say, yeah, top to bottom, we have more guys that can throw at an NFL level than we've ever had. So the expectations for the guys playing the positions, these guys are getting quarterback coaches at a younger age. So we even see Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Drew Brees talked to me a couple weeks ago about working with his quarterback coach. After 17 years in the NFL, yeah, Drew Brees and the best of the best are doing that. So I can expect Troy to say, yes, he should be more accurate. But it has a lot to do with what people aren't looking at. Because if you look at Dak, you look at his size, look at his arm strength, you think, wow, this guy should be a great thrower of the ball. But he doesn't have two things that you need in being a great passer. He doesn't have great anticipation. That means he will not throw the ball out there early to trust where the wide receivers are going to be, and that's what most of the great quarterbacks have. And he does not have great footwork. And what you see, sometimes it looks like guys who are antsy in the pocket, but now most of the quarterbacks, their feet are always moving. And if you watch Dak, his feet get still, they get parallel a lot in the pocket. And when you don't see that pitter-patter like Drew Brees, those are the things that lead to you being inaccurate. And when sitting down talking to Drew Brees 2 weeks ago, he told me, Chris, one thing that makes me accurate is I know where everyone is supposed to be. So I'm not guessing. I know where my check down and outlet is always, and every protection, I know the weakness. So if they send someone into a zone that I know it's a weak zone, I know immediately where I must go with the football. So there's so many other things that it takes for a quarterback to be accurate. And one is being familiar with the offense. Number two is their footwork. So I don't see Dak improving in year number 3 the way I thought he was going to improve.
The quick follow-up, the anticipation, is that just an innate quality that you have, the ability to, once you start playing quarterback, you know that, or is that something that comes with time and experience?
This is the thing. Certain guys are gifted with it. Like they know they'll just throw into that window, trusting the wide receiver, they have it. Other guys have to learn to be able to trust what they're doing, trust their ability, trust the offense, and that skill is developed over a long period of time. But yes, certain people have the gift, and then other people, it's a learned skill.
The Cowboys are 30th in scoring this year. The only teams behind them are the Cardinals and Bills. Both of those teams have made a quarterback change already. Now, those teams also drafted their quarterback of the future, so they were ready to make that change. But so everyone deserves some blame here when you are 30th in a league of 32 teams in scoring. So I want to look at the other side of it, which is, in the last 20 years, the best teams at scoring the football. What did they all have in common? Whether it's the 98 Vikings, whether it's the 99 Rams, the 07 Pats, a couple years ago, the 2016 Atlanta Falcons, they had excellent schematics, whether it's Brian Billick with you guys, Mike Martz, Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons, either a Hall of Fame quarterback or a quarterback playing at an MVP level, Randy, Warner, Shanahan, and
Brian Billick, we thought when we started the game, we had at least 10 to 14 points just scheming. Like they're going to play this coverage. We're going to run this. Now, we might get this ball in the red zone. Do we kick a field goal? Do we score touchdowns? But 10 to 14 points every game.
So they all had an enormous schematic advantage before the game started. They all either had a Hall of Fame quarterback or a quarterback that won MVP that year for the level at which he played, and stars at wide receiver. Whether it's you guys, whether it's Ike Bruce, whether it's Randy with the 07 Pats, Julio Jones and company with the 2016 Falcons. The Cowboys have none of the above. The Cowboys have no schematic advantage from Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan. They have a quarterback that is playing at the opposite of an MVP level, and they have no wide receivers. So it is the perfect, just like all those teams were the perfect storm for, we're going to score 400-plus points. We're going to be a dominant offense, or 500-plus points.
Right now with the
It's the opposite. It's none of the boxes are checked. Because you know what those teams don't have in common? It's not like we're like, oh, yeah, and they had this superstar running back. Some of them did. The 99 Rams did, but the 07 Pats did not. The 2016 Falcons did not. Some of them had good offensive lines. Some of them had mediocre offensive lines. The things the Cowboys are great at aren't correlated with historically good offenses. The things they're bad at, being bad at all three, they are correlated with really bad offenses.
If you look at Dallas's offense, and let's compare it to, because they have Zeke and they have that offensive line, let's look at them compared to the Rams, who have Todd Gurley, and L. Bell in Pittsburgh. Those other offenses their number one formation is 3 wide receivers and 1 back.
Yep.
They spread the field. Both of those guys, Kansas City, they do motion sideways. Dallas, they're very predictable. And when you play the type of football that becomes very predictable, it becomes harder on the quarterback. So it's a combination of how they're going to play and him advancing and knowing more about the game of football, knowing where the weak spots are in that offense. Those are the things that help quarterbacks develop and become more accurate throwing the football.
If you take out Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees, maybe Matt Ryan from a couple years ago, how much of this is because he's not that accurate, and how much of this is because he doesn't have anyone to throw to? There's some quarterbacks, even without weapons like Tom Brady, are still going to come out there and light it up. But he isn't having that year, and he doesn't seem to have anyone to throw to.
Well, that's like, so San Francisco this year, they have problems at quarterback because C.J. Beathard's their starting quarterback. They don't have great wide receivers, yet they're exactly league average in points scored. Indy has problems at wide receiver, but they are right around league average, exactly at league average, because Andrew Luck can make it happen, and I think schematically they do have an edge with Frank Reich. Like the Cowboys, if we're cutting this up into a pie, I would say 25% on the wide receivers, 35% on the coaching, and 40% on the quarterback. Like, he gets the plurality of the blame, but not the entirety of the blame.
There is such a sense of relief when quarterbacks have wide receivers that either can make plays that aren't drawn up by the coaches, or they have a catch radius that's very, very friendly. And that's one thing that Jason Witten and Des Bryant gave to Dak early in his career. Like, you can throw the ball close to these guys, and their catch radius being so big, it's very comforting for a young player. So when you're talking about, I knew sometimes I didn't have the best quarterbacks, but I put the pressure on myself, because if I could make a great catch, even in warm-up sometime, Brad Johnson used to say, hey, Chris, how you feeling today? Is the circle this big or is the circle this big? And if you can give that quarterback the comfort, he don't have to be perfect, and you develop that trust, that helps young quarterbacks out also.
And I don't think Troy wants to go out there and highly criticize Dak Prescott, not only because of Troy being the color analyst on a Fox that has a lot of Cowboys games, but also because of, I don't think Troy wants to be highly critical of anyone. He doesn't have to be, particularly the quarterback of the team he quarterbacked for. But he knows what we know. Show Dak's numbers since Zeke's suspension. It's now 13 games. It's one of those blind reveals I like. See, Dak's numbers are slightly better than the quarterbacks on the right. The touchdown-interception ratio is almost exactly the same, but he's slightly better than all the quarterback on the right. Show who that is. This quarterback's last 13
Always
games.
makes me nervous. See?
Brock Osweiler.
Always makes me nervous.
Man, the Texans gave up a second-round pick to have Brock Osweiler off the team.
If you didn't have the Dolphins logo, people at home were like, hey, where's he playing right now?
I swear, I was just going to be like, oh, he plays for the Dolphins now? That's exactly it.
And I want to give credit. CBS Sports tweeted out this comparison. I thought it was great, so I wanted to bring it to television. So they're the ones that made me think of it, or they're the ones that actually came up with it, I should say. But that is, you don't want to be in that conversation. You don't want to be in the comparative to Brock Osweiler conversation in anything quarterbacking aside from height. And so that is the world in which Dak exists right now. Yeah, part of it's Alan Hearns, part of it's Scott Linehan, part of it's Jason Garrett. But when we are going to be discussing whether or not they should extend him, whether or not he's going to go from $700,000 to over $17 million, then you have to look at things like that and have enormous pause.
I was going to say the same thing. If he was having a great year, that's what we'd be talking about. Oh, the Cowboys are going to get ready. Their contract is coming up. And because he isn't having a great year, I think everything is sort of up in a state of flux. All right, got to take a break. Coming up, could the Eagles be going after L. Bell before the trade deadline? That's next. This is First Things First.